Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, the breaking news coming in out of Iran. They have just closed their airspace. What we've learned in the U.S. tonight, this mysterious cell phone outage. More than 1 million customers affected so far. First tonight, Iran, amid rising tensions there. American troops tonight warned to be ready to evacuate the largest U.S. base in the Middle East. Iranian police storming a hospital looking for injured protesters. Iran tonight shutting down their airspace. President Trump's warning if Iran executes protesters. And what the president is now saying tonight, what he has heard from the Iranians. In the U.S. tonight, that massive outage knocking out cell phone service for Verizon customers. More than 1 million affected, what we know so far, and who or what is behind this. Tonight, Greenland and Denmark sending officials to the White House, with President Trump saying anything less than the U.S. controlling Greenland is unacceptable. What those leaders said when they came out of the meeting. Tonight, the chilling new video just now emerging.
Wait!
ICE agents bursting through the door of an immigrant family's home in Minneapolis. The tension building, and influential podcaster Joe Rogan now questioning this, asking, are we really going to be the Gestapo? The FBI executing a rare search warrant at the home of a Washington Post reporter, seizing her cell phone, laptops, and other devices, what we know. Tonight, West Wing actor Timothy Busfield appearing in court on child sex abuse charges. Prosecutors now revealing a new allegation. His lawyers now saying the actor has taken a polygraph, and the message from his wife, actress Melissa Gilbert. At this hour, 4 NASA astronauts are now on their way back to Earth after that serious medical issue, the very rare move now to bring them home early. Tonight, we're also tracking a powerful storm sweeping its way east, bringing heavy snow, ice, and rain, multiple systems. Lee Goldberg has the forecast. Tonight, actor Kiefer Sutherland has now been arrested. Also, the 2 teenagers who died buried in the sand. And there's news coming in tonight on a chocolate recall. Why they're so concerned. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir. Good evening. We begin tonight here with breaking news coming out of Iran. We have learned a short time ago Iran restricting much of its airspace. U.S. troops at the largest U.S. base in the Middle East had been warned to be ready to evacuate. In Qatar, those American forces on alert, and tonight Iran taking those steps to shut down its airspace. The situation inside Iran worsening 24 hours after President Trump warned that the U.S. would take, quote, very strong action if Iran began executing jailed protesters. Some of the new images emerging are disturbing tonight. Iranian police were seen storming a hospital on the hunt for injured protesters. Late today in the Oval Office, President Trump and what he says the Iranians are now saying after his demands. The president was asked if U.S. military action is still on the table. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell leading us off from the region again tonight.
Tonight, some American forces on the biggest U.S. base.
This is Sky News, the headlines. Britain closes its embassy in Tehran after US threats to intervene in a crackdown on mass protests in Iran. But will President Trump now hold off?
The executions have stopped. They're not going to have an execution, which a lot of people were talking about for the last couple of days. Today was going to be the day of execution.
Denmark and Greenland say fundamental disagreement remains with the US after talks about Trump's desire to take over the Arctic territory. Welcome. Britain has temporarily closed its embassy in Tehran after the US threatened a military intervention in support of mass protests in Iran. UK and American troop numbers have also been drawn down from the biggest US base in the Middle East in Qatar after Iran said it would hit back at any strikes. But President Trump has signalled he may be holding off on action, revealing he's been told plans for the execution of protesters have been stopped. International correspondent Alex Rossi reports.
Still in place, the true death toll across Iran remains unclear, but it's likely running into the thousands. Sky News has spoken to one woman in Tehran who attended the protests, and her testimony is chilling. She asked not to be identified for her and her family's safety.
Everyone was being shot in the head. I don't think they have space in the so they're being saved with tear gas. It burnt our lips and our eyes. Without help from the outside, they just kill everyone. This time, everybody is out on the streets. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, religious or not, old or young. Everybody wants these people gone.
It is still very hard to understand what is happening inside Iran. The regime is trying to seize control of the narrative, pushing back with images and messages designed to project strength and unity. State security press
Women will break his legs.
not detain demonstrators, among them Irfan Soltani, a 26-year-old who's been sentenced to death. He was to be executed. His fate at this moment is
the website.
Today, Iran closes its airspace and US personnel removed from a military base. Washington considers its response to the crackdown on protesters. The opposition leader says she won't back Labour's hate speech and gun laws, calling them unsalvageable. An investigation launched after 11 explosive devices are found near footpaths across Canberra's northwest. And an amateur tennis player aces a one-point slam at Melbourne Park, beating several pros to walk away with $1 million. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. Iran has temporarily closed its airspace to most flights amid concerns about possible military action by the US. Some American personnel have been withdrawn from a Qatar military base as Donald Trump considers a response to the Iranian government's brutal crackdown on protesters. Other countries are urging their citizens to leave Iran immediately. Human rights organizations have verified around 2,500 deaths during the anti-government demonstrations. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran reports.
The Islamic regime is trying to reassert its control across Iran after more than a fortnight of major demonstrations demanding an end to its almost 47 years of hardline rule. The protests have rocked the country, they've rocked the regime, and there is speculation it is teetering. But amidst its deadly crackdown on protesters, there are deep fears that the situation is about to get even worse. Iranian state television showing the country's chief justice visiting a prison and interrogating a man arrested during the protests. He's promising trials and sentencing of offenders will be swift.
These individuals who have beheaded people or burned people in the streets, we must act quickly if we want to do anything. Even if we do the exact same thing but in a couple of months, it will not have the same impact.
Those claims about things such as beheadings have not been backed up by any evidence by Iranian authorities. The reason why the comments from the Chief Justice are so deeply troubling is because human rights organisations believe thousands of Iranians have been arrested over the last few weeks. One organisation putting the figure of detainees at more than 16,000. Many of them are going to be charged with offences that carry the death penalty. Among the first expected to be executed, according to human rights monitors, is 26-year-old Irfan Sultani, arrested, tried and sentenced to death a week ago. News of his situation, however, has gone dark due to ongoing communication blockages in and out of Iran. If those executions do begin, Donald Trump is promising a very strong response. He is still mulling what to do here after encouraging protesters to take to the streets and promising he would protect them. While that anticipation and speculation continues, there is movement across this region, particularly when it comes to US military bases, likely to be a target of any Iranian retaliation once Donald Trump launches any attack. In particular, we've had confirmation that some US personnel have been moved out of the Al Udeid base in Qatar, just outside of Doha, reminiscent of scenes back in the middle of last year, during the middle of the Israel-Iran war, when that base was also attacked by Iran.
ABC News Verify has been tracking how the protests started and spread. Using rare snippets of vision, reporter Marianne Toke has been piecing together the origins of
able to show them in revealing clothing. Malaysia and Indonesia were the first to block. Well, it is also being investigated by the UK and the US state of California.
Hello, I'm Yasmin Yonkers. Mark Carney arrives in Beijing for the first state visit by a Canadian leader in nearly a decade. He's seeking to repair strained diplomatic ties as he meets Premier Li Qiang today. Presidency with the US, while President Donald Trump renews his claim of seeking total control of the territory to counter potential Russian and Chinese aggression.
President Trump also saying the killings in Iran's nationwide crackdown have stopped, though Tehran has yet to confirm this. It is still unclear whether America has held off on the threat of military intervention, as officials say the Pentagon has begun withdrawing some U.S. troops and assets from a key base in Qatar.
Sarah, I'll tell you the Japanese current back now to date for power. And Singapore's parliament backs a motion expressing regret at Pritam Singh's conduct, deeming him suitable as leader of the opposition. All Workers' Party MPs present dissent. Whether he stays in the role now rests with Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. But first,
Elon Musk's social media platform X is removing the image editing function of its AI model, Grok.
And this follows widespread backlash over its creation of sexualized and non-consensual deepfakes. The tool is now blocked for all users, including paid subscribers, in countries where such actions are deemed illegal.
The AI chatbot came under international pressure after its so-called spicy mode feature allowed users to create sexually explicit materials of women and children using simple text prompts.
Indonesia on Saturday became the first country to block access to Grok entirely.
Africa News. The news.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday condemned the United States' recent intervention in Venezuela as a violation of international law. Speaking at his counterpart in Lavrov Washington
Поэтому уже принципиальная оценка законной
Our fundamental assessments of the illegal operation carried out by the US in Venezuela remains valid. They are shared by the overwhelming majority of states in the global south and east. Only West Europeans and Washington are timidly trying to avoid making principled assessments, although it is clear to everyone that this is a gross violation of international law. Russia had previously described the US toppling of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro as an act of armed aggression.
Holding flags and portraits, thousands of Iranians looked on as over 100 coffins slowly moved through the streets of Tehran. These images from Iranian state television showed a mass rally on Wednesday for the funerals of security force personnel who were killed during the ongoing mass protests against the Iranian regime. On the side of the protesters who are facing severe repression from security forces, including the use of live bullets, the estimated death toll ranges from 2,000 to as many as 12,000. Human rights groups have denounced the Iranian regime's response to the protests, which initially started due to the country's economic crisis. Human rights NGOs also fear that the regime may use capital punishment against the protesters, as Iran's judiciary vowed fast-track trials for arrested suspects on Wednesday.
Displaced Syrians returning to their contested neighborhood in the northern city of Aleppo after days of deadly battles between the army and Kurdish-led fighters. More than 150,000 people fled the two Kurdish-held pockets of the city in the 5 days of fighting that saw almost 24 people killed. The government took full control of Aleppo over the weekend. The return was very pleasant. No one questioned us or stopped us at any checkpoints. Before we used to be stopped at checkpoints and questioned. Things are much better now than they were before. Violence in Aleppo has deepened one of Syria's main fault lines. President Ahmed al-Sharaa has promised to unify the country after 14 years of war, but has faced resistance from the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, who are wary of his Islamist-led government.
Fans of two of Africa's top football nations have had their World Cup plans upended because of a travel ban imposed by the Trump administration. Senegal and Ivory Coast were added in December to the list of countries with partial restrictions on entry to the United States. The US is co-hosting the upcoming FIFA World Cup with Canada and Mexico. Supporters cheering for the two West African teams at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco were dismayed by the restrictions.
C'est inacceptable et c'est irresponsable.
This is unacceptable and irresponsible. As a Senegalese person, I hate this. The decision that the president made for the Senegalese people is unacceptable. We love football and it's the World Cup. We should be allowed to travel and support our team, Senegal. So this is unacceptable.
Donc c'est inacceptable. C'est dommage pour moi si.
It's a shame. In my opinion, if you don't want to accept teams, then you shouldn't host the World Cup. It's simple. Honestly, I'm disappointed because we won't be able to support our team. The World Cup is supposed to bring together all the countries of the world, and I find this just a shame, especially since this is about football. It's just football. We're here to support our teams. It's a sport we all love, and we come to support our respective teams, and I think this is a shame.
Et moi je trouve ça dommage.
We hope there will be changes by then. We really hope we'll be able to go and support our team there because it's important. Being part of the fans group 12 Game Day is important for us. I really hope there will be changes because otherwise it could get complicated. We really want to support our players and we hope things will truly change.
Ça va vraiment changer quoi.
Donald Trump is just talking. That's FIFA's decision, not his. FIFA will decide. Senegal will go with its supporters. All the team that qualified will enter the country. Ivory Coast will enter too. Everyone will enter. Under the Trump administration's travel ban, Senegalese and Ivorian people who don't already have visas won't be able to travel to the US to watch the World Cup. The restrictions include an exception for players, team officials and their immediate relatives, but no allowance has been made for supporters.
This is a Fox News alert. This is breaking just as we're coming on the air tonight. We have learned that there was an ICE involved in Minneapolis. We go live to Alexis McAdams. She's live on the ground with the details. Alexis, I've just been looking at these images that we're just getting a hold of now. We'll keep them up for our audience to see. It looks like things are, spiraling out of control very quickly there.
Well, Sean, that's the thing, is it ebbs and flows. So 1 minute, there's a small protest at the federal building. The next minute, these people with whistles and an agenda show up to these different sites across the city. That's what DHS has been saying. What we know right now from our colleague Bill Malugin, who just got off the phone with his federal sources, Sean, is that a man who was a target of an ICE operation from Venezuela, who ICE says was in the country illegally, was a target in this operation here in Minnesota. So they go to the door. That's when they say this Venezuelan migrant held up a shovel, tried to assault one of their agents. You can hear those chants there in the background as protesters show up. That's when they say use the shovel to try and assault the agent. Shots were fired. This Venezuelan teen, we're told, was shot in the leg, expected to be okay. Bill Malugin telling me there's actually a picture that a source texted him of this guy on a stretcher smiling, kind of giving a thumbs up as he's taken away to the hospital. So we'll get more on what's going on there at the scene. But it's become aggressive here, and I saw it today when I was on the ground with law enforcement here, with ICE agents here in Minnesota. It's something we've been keeping an eye on as it continues to grow. But it comes as the governor here, Tim Walz, who's also under investigation in this huge fraud scheme here, Sean, just told people, hey, these are just our neighbors, and if you see them getting arrested, take out your cell phone and record. Watch.
Armed, masked, undertrained ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbors of color live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans.
But that's just not what we saw today on the streets of Minneapolis. You can see the protesters are continuing to erupt here with anger. But when you talk to ICE agents, they say that they're being doxxed, they're being tracked, and they're being targeted here. We saw it before they even got out of the car today at some of these crime scenes. These people were out notifying law enforcement. Take a look at this. And then also, we can tell you that the tactic, though, is not new here in the streets of Minneapolis. It's been rampant. Borders are Tom Homan telling Fox earlier the White House is actually looking into who these protesters you see on your screen are. You can see the pepper balls. You can see the pepper spray being shot. And this is what continues to happen, Sean. We can tell you it's been a week since Renee Nicole Good was shot here in the streets of Minneapolis. But ICE says they're not pulling out. This is targeted operation.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
On this Wednesday night, Quebec's premier quits. Why Francois Legault says now is the time to step down.
Politics is an extreme sport.
And what this might mean for Quebec's separatist movement. Another emergency for an Ontario First Nation.
We've been evacuated yearly.
The sewage flooding homes and the push for more federal help. It's not easy being Greenland, the territory's latest attempts to end the U.S. president's takeover threats. Plus, no fights on flights, please. The push to improve air travel etiquette.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A big political change is happening in Quebec. Premier Francois Legault, who at one point was the most popular premier in Canada, is resigning. He's walking away as leader of the party he created after winning back-to-back majorities. After 7 years in power, his star has fallen, and Legault says he's leaving for the good of the party. Mike Armstrong explains why he's leaving now and where it leaves the province. Mike.
Well, Don, it's not that often that a politician can pull off a complete surprise, but Francois Legault did that this morning. Quebec's premier didn't have anything on his agenda today until a speech was added suddenly. He's speaking at the National Assembly at 11 a.m. about something. It turned out to be a goodbye.
va bien qu'actuellement.
Legault says there is in Quebec a hope for change and a new premier. For the good of his party and the province, says he's leaving.
François Legault, like Justin Trudeau almost exactly a year ago, waited a very long time to resign despite very, very bad polling numbers.
Winning took work for Legault. Created his own party and ran in 8 elections before leading his CAQ to victory in October of 2018. Legault was originally in business. He was one of the founders of Air Transat. In his first stint in politics, he was a minister with the separatist Parti Québécois, party he created for his second stint. It was meant as an option for nationalists fed up with the sovereignty debate.
If people want Quebec to flourish within Canada, they now have an alternative.
Now, Legault would lead the province through major crises most of the sort premiers before him had seen.
Vaccines are our best hope.
Then came the pandemic. Legault brought in arguably the most severe restrictions in North America, including curfews, and yet increased his support. He had an approval rating for more than a year, higher than 80%.
The way he handled the crisis was really hailed by almost everybody, including his opponents.
Recent years have been difficult. There were failed investments that cost the province hundreds of millions, management scandal around a government project that went $500 million over budget, a bitter battle with doctors over a new pay system. From polling a few years ago as high as any premier ever, Legault's party has now dropped all the way to 4th. Legault says he'll stay on until a new leader is chosen, but this now means that both the governing party in Quebec and the official opposition are having leadership races at the same time in an election year. Quebecers are supposed to go to the polls this October. Donna?
And Mike, the separatist Parti Québec.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.